Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Cindy Penner, and I'm served with the Center for On-Demand Education here at Providence University College and Theological Seminary. And today we're exploring the Transforming Leadership Program, and I'm thrilled you've taken the time to join us. Whether you're leading a business, a nonprofit, church, or school, or any other organization, paid or volunteer, we know that your leadership comes with very full calendars and competing priorities. So it's really inspiring to see that you've dedicated your time to develop your leadership skills. And as we know, this can really have a positive impact on organizations, your team, and leaders themselves. And so we're so grateful that you're choosing to invest in yourself and your leadership. So some of you may have connected with us at Missions Fest Manitoba, while others may be exploring leadership development opportunities for the first time. And whether you're new to leadership or you've an experienced leader, you are very welcome here, and we think that you'll get a lot of out of our session today. So last week we did a webinar where we talked with one of our mentors, Gavin Hall, and he passionately shared with us how he viewed the program and how the role of mentors exponentially increases the value of leadership development programs for our students. And today we'll be looking at this program through a student experience lens. So you can see firsthand how it supports student leaders through mentorship, through practical learning, and applying what you learn directly into your current work context. So here's what you can expect today. First, I'll briefly introduce the program. And then for the main part of this session, it will be a conversation between Karen Anderson, our co-director, and Devin Clunas, who is one of our current students. And he's going to share some insights as a student in our program. And you may have know him better as the former chief of police in Winnipeg. He's also a leadership speaker, and he's also an author. So we'll have more about that later. So after the interview and the conversation with them, we're going to close with some next steps that you guys may be interested in. We'll have a time for questions, and then we're going to have a few announcements from our code program here. But before we get started, there's a couple of housekeeping things. So as you may notice, all the participant cameras are off during the webinar, so you don't need to worry about being on screen, so just sit back and enjoy. We'd love for you to ask questions and anytime throughout this session, so just put them on the Q&A panel, so you can see that on the side of your screen, I hope. So just go ahead and post any questions there that you may have throughout the time, and we'll address them at the end of the session during the Q&A time. And just a note that this session is being recorded. So if you need to step away or would like to revisit the discussion later, we're going to be sending out the recording in a few days, and along with the links that we shared throughout the webinar. So you'll have access to it in a few days from now, early next week, let's say. Also, if you are experiencing any technical difficulties, please let us know in the Q&A panel. As a chat option, I don't think is available, and we'll do our best to assist. So thank you for everybody for joining us, and we can get started now. So for the Center of On-Demand Education, I do want to let you know that it was established about 3 years ago, and it was established to provide competency-based leadership programs that fill a critical gap that we have found in different organizations. So many traditional degrees give graduates knowledge, but not always the practical leadership skills organizations need. And competency-based education addresses this by combining mentorship with real-world application and reflection. And this helps students demonstrate the proficiency in the skills that they are required to have to graduate from the Transforming Leadership program that we offer here. So this Transforming Leadership program was our first offering, and we are proud to say that we already have 2 graduates. And this program includes 12 learning outcomes. So typically they're about 2 months each, so it takes approximately 2 years to finish the program. But one of the great things about program is that you can do it at your own pace, so it could take a little bit longer or a little bit shorter for you. We've also developed 2 other additional shorter leadership programs. One is the Lead Well certificate, and that's done with our partner Leading Influence. And this certificate is for leaders, for people that are leaders in community organizations or political settings. And then we also developed an Indigenous Leadership Identity and Reconciliation certificate for students to develop strong Indigenous leadership skills within and beyond their communities. So both of these programs are also competency-based with fewer learning outcomes, and so it takes a little bit shorter time to complete them. And we're going to post a link to a document where you can actually read a little bit more about it, or if you want to go on our website as well, you'll be able to find more information. So now back to the Transforming Leadership program. This program is designed for leaders in any organization, and what makes it unique is that your real-life leadership role becomes your learning environment. So the program is built on 4 principles. The first 2 are accessible and affordable, so you can learn at your own schedule. Tuition is subscription-based on a monthly basis, and so you only pay for the time that you take to complete the program. And leadership development fits around your life and not the other way around. It's also applicable. So coursework is practical and immediately useful. Students tackle real challenges in their organizations, applying critical thinking, problem solving, and reflective leadership in real time. So you learn while you lead, and you turn your current role into your classroom. And 4th principle is accompanied. So mentors guide students every step of the way. So each student has both an academic mentor as well as a contextual mentor for their workplace. And this creates a dual support mentorship system that is rare, that you will find in any other leadership programs. So to summarize, the program is accessible. You can study from anywhere while you're continuing your leadership work. It's accompanied. You're supported by both an academic and a workplace mentor. And it's adaptable and practical, so it focuses on your real-world challenges. But in addition to this, the program is also formational in that not only does it help with practical skills, it also helps you to develop your leadership identity and challenges your personal development. So students find this adaptable and practical approach strengthens their confidence, and it clarifies their calling, and it helps lead them more effectively. But it would be great to have you guys hear from one of our students more about this. So we're going to have, our next part is going to be talking about the real life, student life experience, and that's going to be where we can hear directly from one of our students, Devon, as I mentioned. And this will hopefully help us all understand how the program works in practice and how mentorship supports growth, how assignments and learnings connect to real-world leadership challenges, and how leaders, whether just starting out or highly experienced, can benefit from a competency-based approach. So today, our program director, Karen Anderson, will be asking the questions of Devon, and she's going to ask about his leadership role, what motivated him to enroll, and how he's applied what he learned from code directly into his work and into his life. And she'll also explore how the program has influenced his personal growth, his leadership skills, and his decision making, and ask for any tips for others that may be considering the program. So by listening to Devon's experience, I'm sure you'll get a much clearer picture of what this looks like. And so with that, Karen and Devon, I will invite you to begin.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cindy. I appreciate that introduction. It's been a joy to work with Cindy. I enjoy her enthusiasm for our programs. Devon, also thank you for joining us. I know your schedule is full and you have lots going on, and you fit, and so I appreciate you fitting this in. You also fit in school to all of this, so it's I think that's one of the benefits that you have found, that it is without having specific class times or semester structure, that you can kind of fit this in the nooks and crannies of your life, but then also apply all your learning to what you're doing. So it becomes, like Cindy mentioned, very applicable. So yes, can you describe a little bit of what you're doing currently? Like a lot of us know you as the former chief of police. What are you doing now?
Absolutely. Thank you, Karen. It really is a pleasure to be here with you. And I have to tell you, it was a little bit odd hearing Cindy describe me a number of times as a student, a student. Not me, but I guess, yes, in a sense, I'm a student of life. So what am I doing right now? I'm involved in consulting. So I consult across our lovely nation and across US in terms of police, leadership. I do a lot of keynote speakings, both in person and virtually. So I'm very engaged, very busy. And then I often try to get away in the winter, which is really great about the virtual nature of this. Right now, I'm back in Winnipeg because there's lots of work to be done here. I'm doing some volunteer work with an organization we call Compassionate Winnipeg, having community meetings, trying to reconnect the community, getting people just to start meeting face to face again and reconnect us in a very meaningful way. So there are times I have to tell you that I say maybe I should get a job because I don't find that I have a lot of time off. Even when I'm away, I'm doing things like this. But I'm very happy at this stage of life, and definitely getting involved with code has just been an excellent initiative in the last year in my life.
Yeah, so what prompted you to even think about going back to school?
You know, from 1983 to 87, I spent 4 years at the University of Winnipeg. I thought I was going to become a biologist, but then I discovered that really wasn't my purpose. And so I left 1 year short of graduating to join the Winnipeg Police Service. But I always had a desire to finish that degree. So I was still taking courses up until I got to the position of chief of police. But in 1998, I volunteered to become a police chaplain. And that's how I was introduced to Prov. We had our initial training there and thought it was just so excellent that I wanted to continue taking courses at Prov. So every year I'd take maybe a course here, a course there. We were in the MDiv program, always with the mindset that when I was finished my career, I would sign up full time and finish that degree. And actually, it was just before the pandemic that I was going to do that. But of course, the pandemic struck, everything was put on hold for a period of time. And then, once the pandemic kind of subsided, I thought I'm going to apply back to Prov. But then I had the really bad news that the courses I had taken previously, they had kind of lapsed. So I honestly thought, Devon, this is just not meant to be. And so I actually put it out of my mind. And then several months after making the application, I received a letter from a wonderful gentleman that you might know, a Dr. Anderson, who said, Devon, you might be interested in this particular program that we're starting. And he sent me the information on code. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is incredible, because in my consulting work, the biggest issue I see is a lack of effective leadership development. And I was always looking for the right tool that I could now share with aspiring leaders and say, perhaps you want to take a look at this. And so I thought it'd be meaningful. Not only will I get to complete the degree that I wanted to for my own self-fulfillment, but I can actually assess this tool so I can say to others, it's really good. I've done it myself, and I can tell you everything that I've seen, everything that Cindy talked about in the preamble. Absolutely. It is so beneficial that I see the application right across every sector in terms of leadership and discourse.
So how do you see, like, give us some examples. How do you see it practically applying, like, as you do your work in leadership consulting?
Yeah, absolutely. The best part of this course, and I think Cindy laid it out, is that you can do it while you're still in your career. All of the skills that you're learning, you get to apply them right away. And what I've done for myself is I've been able to go back, because again, I've had some very significant leadership responsibilities, not only chief of police here in Winnipeg, but the Inspector General of Policing in Ontario.
Right.
I was able to go back and assess the decisions actually that I made previously in my career. And I'm thankful that, some people say I was successful, but I think it's because my decision-making processes and the principles that I applied really fully aligned with what I'm learning in code. So things that I might have done just intrinsically without understanding the principles behind it, it's really good to have them fully grounded. So for me, it's almost like a consolidation of all the things that I've done. I know why I did the things I did, and I know the impact, why I had the particular impact. And if I'd had that, let's say at the start of my leadership journey, or even mid-level as I'm moving up, I think would have had significantly different impact to know what you're doing and why you're doing it. And sometimes, when you're a new leader, you might be a little hesitant because you're wondering, is this the right way to go? And if you had that background, no, even I think honestly, I might have accomplished more, because I would be absolutely certain that what I'm doing is the right thing and the right approach, because for me, a lot of it was just trying to figure it out on our own. And I don't think that's a good thing for us to do, the leaders. So I'm saying, and I can say this in this venue, thank you. It's God's grace why I was able to be successful. But imagine if I'd had the formal leadership training and development and step into each one of those roles, knowing that what I'm doing is the right thing, not just waiting to see the outcome and wondering, okay, is this going to work or not? We don't do a very good job in leadership development right across every sector today. And if we did that for aspiring leaders, we'd actually transform the very culture of our environments, not just work, but I'm talking about society as a whole.
So as you just describe it, like some of the ways that we designed the program was intentional, of course.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted people to look at, I often describe it as a 360 look at leadership. So looking at who you are as a person, looking at your values, your beliefs, your understanding. So thinking about your theology, thinking about your spiritual formation, how you live out that theology, how you impact it with your personal discipline, looking at these kind of internal things, I think is something that we can learn whether we're just beginning in a leadership role or whether we need to have a relook further down the road and continue to hone those things. That's an ongoing and a lifelong learning piece. Those understanding God is a big thing. Like you're not, we're not going to trap it into a small wee understanding. So to continue to dive deep into your theology and be able to have that honed by developing and using it into your role, but also be challenged by mentors to say, do you really think that? Or why do you know that? Or how are you engaging that? And that's some of the beauty of this way of doing education, is having mentors speak into what you're doing, but then also the application of the work. But looking at leadership, not just the skills needed, that the basics of how you lead people, but looking at why you lead people because of who you are first, and then looking at how you lead people. I think it's a very unique way that we've designed the program, and I think that's why it works for initial leaders, but also leaders that have been leading to continue to develop their skills. So I'm glad that you're experiencing it that way. I'm glad to hear that that's our design is working.
Oh, your design works so well. I can tell you, as I said, I've had some significant leadership responsibilities in my career and life. And, when I signed up for the course, there was a part of me that was saying, really, is it going to teach me anything? I have to be honest. Am I going to learn anything? Because I've led significant organizations. But the mentorship component for me has been the most meaningful, because I'm sitting with, again, Dr. Anderson, the Reverend Dr. James Christie, people who have a broad breadth of experience and knowledge. And to just sit in company, yesterday, Jim and I spent an hour and a half at lunch and sitting and talking. And yes, a lot of it is about the course, but it goes so much beyond that. And so that's the richness of the experience. Now, when I take that back to the workplace, I imagine if, again, as a frontline leader or a mid-level manager leader, if I had somebody with 5-10 years experience above me that I was able to sit and have that conversation with on a weekly or a bi-weekly basis, how enriching that would have been. And I honestly believe that we're missing something significant, both in terms of organizational leadership, life, your own personal life leadership, and societal leadership, because we actually do not have those structures in place right now. And if I was to go back and lead an organization, I would be intentional to put that in place for every single one of my members. Now, in a place like the Winnipeg Police Service with 2,000 plus members and a significant number of leaders at different layers, can you imagine how having a formal structure like that would actually transform an organization that has such a massive impact on a city? And so if we start thinking about it like that at a granular level, but looking at the bigger impact that we can have, that's what this program can do. And as I said, for me, the mentorship component has been so enriching. I think it's something that we need to do on an ongoing basis for ourselves, for our organizations, for society, which is in deep need, as I'm telling you right now, of this type of transformative leadership to radically transform our culture.
Yeah, that mentorship piece, just even passing down like institutional knowledge, like having
Mhm.
the ability to not lose institutional memory as people retire and move out, but to be having that as an intrinsic part of ongoing leadership development within an organization, yes, would be hugely impactful. And this gives the framework to do that. It allows organizations to use the people that they have who know their business and how it works and why they work and the things that are important to them, and be able to pass that and feed that into the upcoming leadership can be life-changing for the organization. But
It
yeah.
really can be. Another component that I really appreciated, as I said, I bring a lot of leadership experience to this study, but you're able to apply it immediately, demonstrate your competency in that. And as you said, if you want to take 2 years to do the program, or you can move through it quicker because you can demonstrate that, yes, I've done this. And so I love the flexibility that
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be a Monday to Friday or certain hours, because sometimes I'm here early in the morning, or it's late at night, or maybe it's in an airport when I'm traveling, could be on a beach. I'm just saying the flexibility to be able to work on it at a time that's convenient for you, and to be having that instant and continuous feedback, both virtually and in person. I think it's very unique. It makes it very, very appealing.
Yeah, the competency-based, as you mentioned, like being able to demonstrate your prior learning. So the competency-based approach to that is we don't take in any transfer credits, but we do take in everything that you have, whether it's accredited or not. But you still have to demonstrate your learning. So as soon as you can demonstrate some things, so for example, there's an outcome, effective communication. Now you communicate all over the place. So it wasn't one that you needed to spend hours and hours continuing to hone that skill. So that one, shorten it up, demonstrate it, move on. But other ones where you want to spend time, so theological foundations, I know you wanted to do a deeper dive in there and even go further than what was offered, and tap into the experience that your both mentors have. So that one can be like it's not the ability to create a very unique and stylized pathway to fit your learning goals is something that can be done through this style of competency-based education.
Yeah, what I love so much about this, that it was not a check the box exercise. Just take this course to go through it to get a credit. I really wanted to be meaningful for me, something that's going to contribute to whatever it is that I choose to do in the future. So it has to be meaningful. And the fact that you can tailor it to that degree makes it very meaningful for the student. And so you're not, as I said, just going through a check the box, doing something generic. You can craft the outcomes to make it really satisfying for you. So I love that about the program.
So what are some of the other student experiences you've had that have been a surprise to you, maybe, as you've worked in the program?
Yes, so I would say I've taken away some key pieces here. And again, somebody who grew up in the church, strong Christian theology. But the whole concept of, okay, we often hear about heaven and earth. And I had a real mind shift in terms of, no, we're not just passing through, waiting to get to heaven. In everything we do, whether it's be in our vocation or in our daily lives, let's try and bring heaven to earth, and let's unite that. And I spent a lot of time studying N.T. Wright on that. And really, it was a bit of an epiphany for me, because I've always kind of believed that just intrinsically. But to hear a respected theologian actually articulate it like that, it just shifted the way I see everything I do. But yes, try and bring peace and unity. And while we're here, this is not just a waypoint. And let's try in every aspect, whether we look at it ecologically, in terms of how we engage with people. Yes, my interaction with you, I can bring a little bit of heaven to earth, unite both. And then one thing that really helped me personally in terms of my personal life, but it can also apply in your work life, was something, again, that my mentor shared with me, was this whole theology of failure. Because yes, I've had a lot of successes in my life. And if you really, put your worth just on your successes, that could be a failure. But also, if you fail at something and you put your worth is fully attached to that, that's also not the right way to view life. And so I really spent a lot of time when I wrote on this. Again, another significant shift in the way I see the world in evaluating both success and failure. And we should never let either of those define us. And so it was really critical. Those are the things that I spent a lot of time just in deep thought about. And I thought, this is the value of something like this, because now let's say in the workplace, you run into a difficult situation, or one of your subordinates run into a difficult situation, because you have a different lens and a perspective through which you're evaluating that issue. It changes everything. And so these are the things that I think we fail to give people early in their leadership journey or life journey, but they can have significant impacts in terms of how we deal with issues. So this is beyond, as I said, it's beyond an academic exercise. It really is a life-changing exercise, this course.
I think some of those kernels of thoughts must have been in your mind, the things that you've learning, because some of that was like this is Devon's book, by the way. It's kind of a look at his journey as a leader from where he came as a 12-year-old boy from Jamaica to Canada. But just talking about how bringing people together in diverse settings and how to see people as equals and to be able to work with people because you care for them as a person. There was a quote here that one of the things you did was lead the records and report management division. Now, it was noted for being a really difficult division to lead, but eventually, because of how you were leading it, things started turning around, and one of the people asked to join, and you asked why. And it says, because we hear you care about people there. And I think that care has marked your leadership and continues to mark, but it sounds like you're even deepening that thinking on how you're going about caring for people and bringing a bit of heaven here on earth by seeing people as created in God's image and caring for them in that way.
Without a doubt. I mean, caring for people is what led me into policing, and people might think, care, policing, yes. Just in doing the simple things like saying sir or ma'am, or looking out for people's welfare. And people sometimes, I'd be walking the beat and treating people like that. And people would say, like, why are you doing that? Why are you treating people like that? Well, that's what God would have me do. And again, I was never preachy at people, but when they would ask me an honest question, I would say, do you want the real answer? So even in terms of my leadership, I would go in and say to these are some of my subordinates, I'm here to serve you. Like, what do you mean you're here to serve us? You're the boss. Why would you do that? Again, not preaching. Well, Jesus serves, so that's what I'm here to do. And as I said, in 1998, I became a chaplain, not because I thought becoming a chaplain would be the end of my career. I really did. But I thought, no, that's what God's calling me to do. I'm here to serve. Well, I went from chaplain to chief, not because Devon is so grand. And when I became chief, it was about how do we serve this entire community? So I was never shy about why I am doing the things I am doing. This is my purpose. And even in the work that I'm doing now in terms of Compassionate Winnipeg, I'm doing that on my time because we need to do something to reconnect people right across the board. And my mindset is, why shouldn't Winnipeg, which is at the center of the continent, be the example of how we do that well? We're so incredibly diverse. We need to bring people together. And we recognize that the demographics of our nation is changing. Immigration, growth in the Indigenous community. But if we don't become one, and that's why the title of the book is One, we can't be these different groups just by ourselves. It's good to remember who we are individually, but we have to be united as one. We are one people. So serving people has just been at the heart of everything I've done. But where am I getting my example? It is my faith.
Well, it's amazing how you're living that out, how you continue to grow in it, to be allowing as a seasoned leader to be still willing to learn, to be willing to be told by mentors, no, you could think deeper on this. You could go further. I mean, I think you talk about one of your first mentors, Miss Hannah, one of your teachers. You mentioned how she was instrumental in helping you to look further in to see that education could be something that you could do, and that you could make that, and that using that could make a difference in your life. So that mentoring was definitely something that you already were valuing, but continue to see the value in that mentoring piece. That's very much crucial part of this type of education, this competency-based training. So when I say competency-based training, I should probably define it a little more. It's where a student develops their learning and demonstrates it in a workplace. So the student takes in all the content, they do the readings, they write their papers, they do the normal scholastic stuff, but they do it with a vision of how that lives out in the workplace. They also are challenged in the workplace by their mentor to see if they truly are living it out, whether it is just a nicely written paper, but they're not acting nicely in the workplace. They have to jive, and those their skill set has to be not just a knowledgeable skill set, but it has to be a head, heart, hand experience so that it's a lived out learning. So that's hence the role of a contextual mentor, evaluating them in the workplace, but then also the academic mentor from Prov, ensuring that those academic standards are less held up. So it's not this or that, it's and both. So the bar is high because you have to be able to be demonstrating proficiency. So the students' papers may get sent back until they are written and argued in such a way that it is really a high standard. They do have to, all the projects that they do have to be reflective of a deep level of work. So the students do complete their tasks with high grades, but those high grades may have been worked on to achieve those, because they have to all come at a highly proficient level to the expectations for each of the courses that are part of the degree. So that's the back and forth with the mentor team, nurturing them through that education process. So that's when I say competency-based education, that's what I'm talking about, this mentored, assessed, work integrated learning. So Devon, if you were to tell someone to take this program, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that this is going to enrich their lives in ways they can't even really fully imagine right now. But if they're an active leader currently in the workplace, it'll accelerate their effectiveness as a leader. And sometimes you don't know what you're missing till you've lost it. But in this case, I would say that they won't know how good it is until they've actually experienced it. Because as I said, I wish I was exposed to this while I was still in that active leadership development part of my life and my career. But now I'm glad I've done it because I have something to give to other leaders who I'm interacting with on a regular basis. And, in the past, I was feeling like almost a little bit hopeless, like, what do I do? Well, now I can say, here, I have something to offer you. It'll be up to them to step into it, but at least I have something meaningful that I can say, I've experienced myself. And you need to step into this to be the most effective leader that you can be.
Oh, that's so perfect. Thank you. Yeah, yes, I'm excited about our program. I would love to be able to shout it from the mountaintops that everyone needs to sign up. But it is a challenging way to study. You have to be self-motivated. You have to be able to, there's supports in place, but you still need to have intentionality to make it happen. Because without the semester system around you, there's no externally placed deadlines. It's up to you to get the job done. So yeah, that's also a leadership skill that you need. That's part and parcel baked in for reasons of you have to be able to do that as a leader. And so through your schooling, you get to learn and train yourself to stay on top of things. But this is a unique way to really apply those things that you get to think deeply on. And so I appreciate your explanation of your experience, Devon, and we look forward to walking you across fully graduated, hitting that goal as well. We look forward to
I would love that. But can I say one other thing, Karen, in terms
Sure.
of for the active leader, I don't think this will be challenging because what you're learning academically, you'll be able to see it. Let's say you study today, tomorrow in the workplace, you'll see it. So it'll be fresh, and it actually will be helping you resolve the issues. So it'll be ongoing. It's the symbiotic nature of what you're learning. It actually, I think it's a more exciting way to learn. I sincerely do. And it's so practical. So I think for somebody who's actively in the workplace, I do not see a better way of doing this. You know, some people take a few months off and go and take a course and then come back. Well, we know what happens. The operations take over. You almost forget everything that you've just learned. Yeah. This is so beautifully integrated. It is the healthiest way. And because of that, I think it's going to make it a much more exciting way for the learner.
Now that application piece, to be able to, you've thought about this thing and you're continuing to think about this thing because you have to write a paper on it. But beyond writing the paper on it, you're kind of going, oh, well, this actually applies to this situation that I'm in right now. Yes. As I think about these things and as I can apply them directly and test them out and grow and develop and apply that whole applicable nature of what we're offering.
Absolutely.
It's huge.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, it works for anybody. Wherever if you're just starting out, you don't have to be a skilled, well-trained leader like Devon, but you can also be. It does hit because it fits to the student's need. It takes them from where they are to being proficient in their leadership style. But yeah, so. We have a Q&A space on the channel there. Pop off your questions, Devon or myself. Happy to answer them. So we're gonna switch over to that section of our webinar today and look forward to seeing what questions pop up.
Thank you, Devon and Karen. I'm just going to interject before we start with the Q&A. That we actually just, if any of you are thinking that this is the kind of mentorship and leadership development that might be suitable and valuable for you in your life or someone that you know of, we would love to connect with you. So we're going to put a link on our Q&A as well for that. Of course, there's no pressure, but just an invitation to explore whether this could be the right next step for you. And I also wanted to let you know about our special offer, 1 month free subscription tuition valued at $400 Canadian if you are registered for today's webinar and you start your application by April 1st. So we would love to hear from you. We also want to celebrate Devon Clunis, the author. And I just want to let you know that he has 2 books. Karen showed 1, at least only 2 that I know of. He's got 2. It's the first one that Karen held up there is entitled One. It's a story of hope in our time, and it's a recent autobiography by Devon about his journey from Jamaica to becoming Canada's first Black chief of police and later Ontario's inaugural Inspector General of Policing. It includes reflections on leadership, resilience, and community impact, and it's great for anyone interested in leadership and personal development. And his second book, that I'm aware of, again, is The Little Boy from Jamaica, and it's co-authored by Perline. And it's an inspirational children's book that tells the story of his early life in Jamaica and his journey to becoming a history-making leader in Canada. And I think it's also available in French. So when we share a recording, we'll share all the links if you want to hop on and buy a gift for yourself, for your family. I'm sure that would be a wonderful read for the kids or for you. So now, if there's any questions, we'll open it
Yeah, we've
up.
got a couple here. So, how long does it take to complete the Transforming Leadership program, and are there different pathways to choose from? So I'll answer that one. It typically, we say it takes 2 years. There's 12 outcomes in the degree. Typically 2 months per outcome is the general path. But like we mentioned with as we've been talking, depending what you bring as a student, so some of those might take you longer, some of those might take you less. So that 2-year window is an approximate time. And are there different pathways? In the sense that everyone's workplace is unique and that workplace flavors the degree, those are unique pathways. So organizations can tailor it so it fits to some of what the organization would need to teach, or students can bring and tailor it like Devon has been doing to for in his instance, leadership consulting and leaning into that direction. So all of them can be different. So we do have some students who are training to become pastors and are working in their church and applying it to church learning. So it's a pastoral development in that sense. We have others and a couple of our graduates that have done it in a nonprofit setting. So thinking and applying all their learning to that specific type of business. And then we have another student who's doing it just straight in a business and looking at the leadership skills within that space. So in that way, each organization, place, business, workplace flavors the degree. And Mike is asking, after your years of experience in the police force and as a consultant, can you speak to any new insights or perspectives you have learned through the CODE program?
That is a
For
great.
instance, he's got for instance, seeing a particular aspect of leadership in a new, fresh way that you've never considered before.
Yes, excellent question. Thank you for that. I think I touched on some of those, which I'll just kind of reiterate. The biggest thing I took out of CODE, as I said, was affirmation that, yes, Devon, by God's grace, you did a lot of things right. But this whole idea of integration in policing, it was always like, leave the work at home, don't bring home to work. I always struggled with like, how can we do that? Because, we're a whole person and what happens at home affects you at work. But spending some time really just delving into the sense that, no, we need to be integrated. And actually that's a healthy way as opposed to trying to compartmentalize these significant components of your life. That was a bit of a big shift for me. And I touched on this whole theology of failure because in our line of work, yes, you have to deal with some difficult situations, like immediately you have to make a split-second decision that others can analyze for sometimes years. And if you had made the wrong decision, it could almost make you feel like a failure, or even in your own personal life. But really wrestling with this theology of failure and not allowing your worth or value to be attached to whether, as I said earlier, the success or something that didn't go well, that again was a big shift. And another piece was, I'm a person who believes, again, in law enforcement, yes, you got to be strong, but just recognizing sometimes the biggest part of strength might just be vulnerability or just having patience to wait, which is not always easy. Oh, if I'd understood all of those pieces earlier on. And so, yes, I'm still a student of life. I'm still learning. And Mike, I got to tell you that most of those pieces, though, came from intentional conversations with my mentors. So it wasn't even just the academic piece in the book. And that's why I'm saying the value of this is so rich and rewarding because of the way it's designed. But yes, so these are now insights that I will take with me for the rest of my days, whether it be in professional life or personal life. They've transformed the way that I'm seeing and engaging with the world.
Thank you, Devon. I see there is another question here, so I'll just read it out. I think maybe both of you can speak to it. The question is from Tim. What is the role and what are the responsibilities of the mentors? And does Providence identify them, or is this the responsibility of the mentee? Karen, do you want to go first?
Sure. So the roles of the mentors are shared. So there's not a hierarchy to the mentor team. They work as a team and they work together to do a student assessment. So each of the outcomes, courses essentially, have a list of indicators, have a list of what the student will achieve. Now, these aren't like learning outcomes where if you do well in the course, you should. This is what you have to achieve to complete the course. So that's the high bar I was talking about. So in each of the outcomes, you have those indicators. So the role of both mentors is to assess the student to those indicators. Now, some of those assessments are seen more by the contextual mentor, seeing it lived out in the workplace. Others are seen maybe a little more by the academic mentor as they grade the paper, as they look to see the work that's being written and done. But both of them work together to say, yeah, we see it lived out here. We see it applied here. We see them wrestling with this and they've got it. If the student has done a list, like there's a list of, we call them interactions with the inputs, the inputs are the content list that the student works through. The interactions are what they do with that list, or essentially the assignments. If the student has gone through that assignments and the student is still kind of floundering a bit, they're really not, it may be a little connected here, but it's not being really lived out, or if it's being lived out, but they still don't really understand why they're doing what they're doing, the mentors can add more and continue to do that assessment until the student reaches that bar. So mentors, it's all about student assessment and doing it together. And so that's the kind of how we define the mentors. So the contextual mentor is someone who has expertise in the workplace of what they're doing. So for example, Devon doesn't have an official workplace. He's leadership consulting. So he is all over the place. So he needed someone who could challenge him in that role, someone who knew Devon well. And so Devon reached out to a person who had mentored him over time in Dr. James Christie. And then we connected Kent, our president at our school, to be his other mentor because of his long leadership experience. And so that they were able to dovetail together in that way and to be able to know what Devon is looking for. Now, in this case, both have their doctorate. In other cases, it's not necessary. The contextual mentor just needs to be the expert in that field, so that if they have a PhD or not, it doesn't matter. But they do need to know the workplace and the expectation of that workplace. So that's where the difference is between the two mentors. The academic mentor is either someone who comes on as a sessional academic person and joins Providence in that way, or is currently one of our current faculty. Devon, do you want to talk a little bit about your experience, how that back and forth with your mentors went?
The back and forth is amazing, as you talked about their qualifications. I sit in that room and I do feel like a student when I'm with them, let me tell you clearly. And they do challenge me. I come with a certain mindset or perspective because, yes, I was a chief or the inspector general, and they get me to think again a little bit more deeply. So it really is that case. And I think you do need that. You need a mentor who's going to challenge you. So, and I get that on a regular basis. And that's where my real meaningful growth is taking place.
I saw that there was a comment in the chat from one of your mentors. Kenton says, one thing I've appreciated about this has been the peer learning that has happened for the mentors. As one of Devon's mentors, I feel like I have learned as much from him as he has learned from me. So that's wonderful to hear too.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, sir. I'm humbled by that.
All right, if there are no more questions, we will move to the exciting part of announcements. I think I got all the questions. Is that right? Does anyone see any more? I think that's good. So before we sign off today, I just wanted to let you know about a couple of exciting things happening. So in the next month or so, CODA is going to be announcing an exciting new program that will soon be ready for students. And then in mid-June, we're going to host another webinar to introduce the program and share more details. Now, the program audience for this latter program will be culminating in a degree will be educators, pastors, social workers, guidance counselors, relief workers, school staff, administrators, chaplains, anybody that is working with persons who have or are experiencing trauma. We might include police in that, right?
Mhm.
That is something that we're really excited to have happen. And once we're officially approved, we're going to be announcing that and sharing information with anybody who would be interested. So feel free to tell your networks and keep them in the know about what's happening here at Providence. And then additionally in September, we're going to host a webinar featuring one of our code partners, the organization called Adult and Teen Challenge. If you're not familiar with it, it's a nonprofit organization based in Winnipeg. This organization has partnered with us to support executive leadership development at the graduate level within their organization. And both their CEO and CFO have recently completed their Masters of Arts in Transforming Leadership. So they'll be graduating this spring. At the Adult and Teen Challenge has also developed an Emerging Leaders Certificate pathway together with Providence for their clients. And what it does is help them continue with the recovery while developing and demonstrating their leadership skills. So last year we had one graduate from that program, and we're expecting 2 more this April or this year.
Mhm.
And we currently have 10 students that are taking this Emerging Leadership program. So during the I just want to mention this program is also 18 months long. And during the September webinar, we're going to be joined by the CEO, Daniel Edmond, and members of his team. And it'll be a great opportunity for us to see the program in action and celebrate their leadership journey, both personally and as an organization. And maybe it might spark some interest in you for an organization that you're involved with or know of that might benefit from something like this. So we'd love for you to share the word about that. And last but not least, thank you everyone for being here today. More than anything, we want to encourage you wherever you are at in your leadership journey and investing this time in your life, in your day-to-day to join us. And for those that watch it later on recording, we're happy that you're taking the time to do that as well. So thank you again, Devon and Karen. That was a very inspirational interview, and we really appreciate you joining us. And with that, we're done. 8 minutes early. So enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye-bye.
Thanks all.
Bye-bye.